Alrighty, today we are going to go ahead and go over solving 1 and 2 step equations. This should be a review from 6th and 7th grade. And then as we continue in this unit, we will amp up the different types of equations that we solve. So, quick review, steps for solving equations. We're going to draw the line, circle the variable, undo addition and subtraction, undo multiplication and division. If you have a fraction, you have to multiply by the reciprocal. Remember, that goes back to fraction division. The keep, change, flip. The flip part is the reciprocal. So when you exchange the numerator and the denominator, denominator becomes the numerator becomes the denominator. That is the reciprocal. And then you can solve and check. So, solving one-step equations, these are really, really basic. This is what you did in 6th grade, but the point of these is you have to learn the process. Now, some of you saw my board a couple of days ago when algebra had a 12-foot long equation. The process is not that different, okay? So we're teaching you the process with easy equations, and then we'll move on and do a lot more difficult ones. So I'm going to separate the left and right side of my equation by drawing a line. The variable I want to interact with here is n. So I can see that n is subtracting 15. So to undo addition and subtraction, I'm going to go ahead and add 15 to both sides. Negative 15 and positive 15 will cancel. I'm left with n on the left. And then we have negative 42 plus 15, which is negative 27. I can check to make sure I did this correctly just by plugging in my answer in for x. Negative 27 minus 15 is negative 42. And you have a calculator to help you solve that. Here, I have negative 4d is equal to negative 60. So if I separate the left and right side of my equation by drawing a line, you'll see that d is your variable. It's the thing that you're trying to isolate or get by itself. I see that d is being multiplied by negative 4. This is something you have to be really, really aware of, is that when a number is next to a variable, any letter you're solving for, that means multiplication. When things are side by side, that means multiplication. I don't have addition and subtraction to undo here, so I'm going to go straight to the multiplication and division. Since I was multiplying by negative 4, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 4. Those will cancel. I'm left with d is equal to 15, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. I can plug this back in just to check my answer. Negative 4 times 15 is indeed negative 60. Here, again, I'm going to separate the left and right sides of my equation. X is the variable we're solving for. I would like to remind you that fraction bars mean division, so X is being divided here by 8. I don't have any addition or subtraction, so I'm going to go ahead and undo multiplication and division, which in this case, I'm going to multiply both sides by 8. Those cancel. X is equal to negative 128. Again, you could plug that back in, check to see if you got the right answer, and indeed, negative 16 equals negative 16. So we're moving on past one step. Oh, I should change the title here. This is more a two-step equation. So we're going to be solving two-step here. The reason it's two-step is because more than one thing is happening to the variable. Yes, I know you just saw the answer, but that's okay. So more than one thing is happening to the variable here. So I'm going to separate the left and right side. Our variable is still n, that's what I'm looking to solve, but now there's two things that are happening to it. So n is adding 6 and it's being multiplied by 3. Remember that when a number is next to a variable, that's your coefficient, and that means to multiply. So since n is being adding 6, the first thing I'm going to undo is addition and subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. Positive 6 and negative 6 will cancel. 18 minus 6 is 12. So I'm left with 3n is equal to 12. Again, I already said that when a number is next to a variable, that means multiplication. So I'm going to undo that multiplication by dividing both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so I'm left with n. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And if I plugged in 4, I'd see that 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 6 is 18. All right, we got a whole lot of practice for two-step equations here, and this is mainly where we're going to be at for today. We'll start adding more and more steps in the coming days, but for today, we're going to focus on some two steps. So again, we're going to separate our left and right side by drawing a line. Here I see that x is our variable, and x is being multiplied by negative 3 because that negative 3 is next to x. That means multiplication. And we have a subtraction of 6. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides first. This negative 6 and positive 6 will cancel. leaving me with negative 3 is equal to negative 39. Please don't let yourself get tripped up on integer addition or subtraction. You have a calculator for that. Don't try and do too much in your head when you may get the answer wrong. So negative 3 is being multiplied by x, so I'm going to divide both sides by 3 to get rid of that. Negative 3 divided by 3 is 1, so I'm left with x, and negative 39 divided by negative 3 is 13. So if I look at my next example here, I see p is being divided by negative 5, and it's also adding 12. So again, the thing we're going to start with is undoing addition and subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. Positive 12 minus 12 will go away. 27 minus 12 is leaving me with 15. So I have p divided by negative 5 is equal to 15. Since I'm dividing by negative 5, I'm going to end up multiplying both sides by negative 5. You always want to do the opposite. Those will cancel, so I'm left with p. Negative 15 times negative 5. Ooh, excuse me, that's not negative 45. That should be negative 75. Negative 75. Okay? Now, number 7, a lot of people get uncomfortable when your variable is on the right. That is perfectly acceptable for x to be on the right side of the equal sign. It's just fine. You just have to go with the flow. You do not want to rewrite it because otherwise you will end up messing up signs. So leave it on the right. It'll be just fine. So here I see that the variable is being multiplied by negative 6. Remember, the sign in front of the number belongs to that number. So here we're looking at this 2. That 2 is indeed a positive 2. So to undo that for both sides, I'm going to subtract 2. Positive 2 minus 2 will cancel. 20 minus 2 is 18. So I'm left with 18 is equal to negative 6 times x. Again, the number in front of the variable is being multiplied. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 6. And I end up with negative 3 is equal to x. On number 8, I see that c is being multiplied by 2/3 and added with 6, so I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides first. Positive 6 minus 6, that cancels. I'm left with 2/3 c is equal to 15. Now, at the beginning of this lesson, before we did anything, we talked about when you're multiplying by a fraction, you want to multiply by the reciprocal. You could, in fact, if you're uncomfortable multiplying by the reciprocal, you could divide by 2/3 in your calculator. Remember, when you divide by a fraction, or when you're using a fraction, you want it to be in parentheses. So you'd put the parenthesis, the numerator divided by the denominator, close parentheses, and that will write as a fraction. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal here. So the reciprocal is the flip. So we're going to have 3 halves, multiply by 3 halves on both sides. So I'm left with c is equal to, 15 times 3 is 45, 45 over 2, and that's perfectly fine. I don't need mixed numbers. I don't need decimals. I want it as a fraction. An improper fraction is just fine. Number 9, v divided by 2 plus 4 is equal to 10. So I'm going to start by subtracting 4 from both sides. Those will cancel. I'm left with v over 2 is equal to 6. Remember that fraction bars mean division, so to undo division, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2, and I'm left with v is equal to 12. Okay, number 10 is a real special case. There is a difference between number 9 and a difference between 10. So if we look at number 9 here, we notice only the variable is all over the fraction bar, not the addition as well. Whereas in number 10, the addition is all over this fraction bar. Now, some of you may have learned last year in 7th grade to use SADMEP to solve equations, which is basically PEMDAS backwards. And the P in PEMDAS stands for parentheses, and this is where it gets really important. When you have a variable and addition or subtraction, and it is all over a denominator. Notice here, only the variable is over a denominator. Here, the entire thing is over a denominator. There is a hidden set of parentheses around the numerator. I'll say it again. When a variable and addition and subtraction is all over one denominator, there is a hidden set of parentheses that is around the numerator. That means I cannot undo the addition and subtraction until I have dealt with the division. So number 10 is a real special case, and it is the only time that you will go out of order. And in this case, we're going to multiply both sides by 4 first, and then I'm left with x plus 3 is equal to 20. Subtract 3 from both sides, x is equal to 17. Number 10 is the special case. You're only going to do that if both the variable and the addition and subtraction is all over a denominator. Every other time you'll undo addition and subtraction, and then you'll undo multiplication or division. So your homework for tonight is 2-1. Please let me know if you have any questions.